This is William del Pilar, and this is Points on the Board, and I'm here with my co-host, Eddie Aparicio. Eddie, before we get going, let me take care of business that the producer jumped on me for last week. Where can you find us? At www.grumblingsmedia.com. Does anybody ever say www anymore? Grumblingsmedia.com. It's our new website. If you want to see these beautiful mugs, you can check us out on YouTube and Rumble. If you're a traditional podcaster, you got to go to Apple. And there's also Google and Joe Rogan, Spotify, and Pandora. Eddie, you're not feeling up to it, so we and the audience thanks you for coming on. So what is it? Rich man's disease, gout, still getting you?
It is, man. We talked a little bit too much about this old man stuff, but yeah, I've been dealing with this thing for like 4 weeks now, man. And it's the thing is, I think I aggravated a little bit because I went to go play golf on Saturday. I actually was thinking about canceling, but I decided to go and play, man. And actually was doing pretty good. I took a couple of leave tablets in the morning, and I actually did okay considering all the factors. But when I got home, man, I don't know, maybe because I hadn't walked realistically like in 3 weeks, that it just aggravated my joint. And, man, I've been in pain ever since, man. So, and it's funny because I've been really watching what I've been eating, man. I've eaten nothing but vegetables. I haven't even had a drink of any alcohol. It's like, man, I've been doing it, but yet I'm still dealing with it, man. So, yeah. So, anyway, but I played golf. I had a good time. Like I said, my game was a little bit all over the place. I'm usually crap. I really can crack the ball big time, like over 300, but I was probably around.
Hold on. I'm not a golfer, so when you say crack the ball, you're talking about a drive, 300-yard drive?
Yeah.
Mackerel.
Yeah, I've had actually, I usually win the long drive, I'm in a couple of golf clubs, and I usually win it. If I'm down the center, I usually win it, because I can hit the ball, get them. That's something you don't know about me, but when, I used to be a baseball player. I still have kind of a baseball swing, unfortunately, but I've hit drives 365. I've done it like twice.
Wow.
So, and, actually one guy actually told me a long time ago, he saw me, on the course, and he's like, hey, man, I can get you in the long drive contest, but we just got to get you like a special form club. We can fit it for you, this and that. And I'm like, yeah, maybe not. I never took him onto it. I just decided. But anyway, yeah, I can hit the ball, but not this week, man. Because I'm ailing. My left foot is the one that has it. So I really can't really get all my, my hips into it because it's hurting. So I have to kind of take a baseball swing and do an uppercut, and it doesn't go as far. So anyway, but how about you, man?
With me, I got a foot problem. I think I got a small fracture at the top of my foot. It's been bugging me for about a month, and but then it goes away. Then I'll go work out, and it comes back. So since COVID, I shouldn't say this, but I really haven't gone to the doctor. I got angry at my doctor during COVID. So and to the audience, I look younger, but I'm an older guy, and it's time for the old finger.
Oh, no.
The colonoscopy. So I call. This is a few years ago. So I call. And the doc doesn't want to see me. He goes, but we can Zoom. And I said, but you're going to charge me to Zoom, right? And I have insurance, so it doesn't matter. But I'm pissed off at the, what's the saying? You're not pissed off at the event, but the whole issue. You're a doctor. Right. You took the Hippocratic Oath. You're supposed to see me, but here you are running scared with the virus with a 99.9% recovery rate. I was like, screw you. So all these doctors that refuse to see their patients, go bleep yourselves. First of all, you broke your oath. 2, it was a 99.9% recovery rate, and I'm sorry. I caught COVID. You didn't need an unknown virus with who knows. We didn't know what was in it, Eddie. People conveniently forget that. Tell me, Eddie, have you ever seen a commercial for a drug on television where the first 20 seconds hypes up the drug, and then what does the next 1 minute and 30 seconds do with the drug?
Talk about the side effects.
Exactly. So I'm thinking, they're not telling us what's in this. I was like, oh. At that moment, I was like, no jab. Because when it was first coming out, my first question was, well, will it keep us from catching corona? That was my first question, which wasn't answered.
Which is what a vaccine do, by the way. A vaccine is supposed to keep you from getting this. Yeah, this is really a treatment. Exactly. It's a symptom reducer is what it is. It's not really a vaccine. It's a symptom reducer.
I'm sorry. I'm a layman. I'm not a medical science. But at 99.9%, recovery rate, 99.7 with the old folks. Damn, we're getting there, aren't we? You shouldn't be putting crap in your body that you don't know what the effects will be. That's my belief. And I used to be silent on that, Eddie, but no more. Too many people are dying. Too many young kids are falling, having cardiac arrest and dying.
Hey, by the way, you know Damar Hamlin, he had that heart attack on the field. And he actually got shut out. You know, they censored him because he was actually going to say stuff about what really caused it. It was actually a vaccine is what they think could have caused that. And there's been a lot of more instances like this, but the media doesn't want anything to do. They don't want to talk about this because Big Pharma doesn't want to have people know about this. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, I will leave it at this. Big Pharma supports cable. Cable, talking about the political news shows, they are 75% supported by Big Pharma with those commercials. So, of course, they're not going to say anything. And 6 corporations own most of like 300 media outlets. You know, people need to realize it's not conspiracy theory. It's being informed and being involved. Sure. Who doesn't love how big Kim Kardashian's butt is? And how many men will tell you, yeah, that's 48 inches or whatever. I don't know. I'm just throwing a number out there. Yeah. But then you ask them about the new law that's going to screw them over harder than anybody could Kim Kardashian. And they'll look at you, huh? What? I didn't know. You know, so I get aggravated at American stuff. Anyway.
Real quick. Before you get into what we're going to get into, one thing I want to tell you a quick little 1 minute deal. So when the vaccine craze was going on, my work actually forced me to do it because they were forcing people to do it to comply, right? Or else you can't have access to the building, this and that. So I went to through a friend of mine, and I went to an online doctor to get prescribed ivermectin. So I actually got ivermectin, and I took it. Yeah, I got. And the thing is, the whole industry was, or the media was trying to hype this thing as like a horse dewormer. Like they're trying to like poo-poo this thing, and this is like a Nobel Prize winning drug that's a known virus, a killer. Yet, the media didn't want anything to do about talking about this because you know why? They don't make money off of this. Ivermectin is like real cheap and, there's no money to be made on it. But with the vaccines, big time money. So I got all kinds of crap for doing this. And the doctor that actually prescribed this to me, he had told me, and I was like, oh my God, this guy's going to get in trouble. He was like, there is no way in hell I am going to give my child that vaccine because we have no idea what's in it. This is craziness what's going on. And I'm like, this medical doctor's actually prescribing, telling me all this stuff. I was like, man, we got to get this guy on TV to tell everybody about this. But sure enough, if any people were losing their jobs, my actual doctor who treated me for Lyme disease, she didn't want to even prescribing ivermectin because the people were actually the big pharma was actually targeting doctors who were actually prescribing ivermectin. So anyway, quick little aside.
I'll leave this with my 1 minute story. So I did fundraising for the Alzheimer's Association. My what I call my brownie points to get into heaven. So I did fundraising and. I was on the fundraising side, not the medical side, and the Alzheimer's Association is built for the caregivers. But we put on tons of events for the caregivers, and the caregivers is the first defense. They're the ones who eventually make the medical choices for the individual with Alzheimer's. There was a Pharma rep outside my door once a week just to say hello. And I'm on the fundraising side. I was the number 2 person on the marketing team. My boss was handled everything. I was like her right-hand man. And my point is just it's a conspiracy theory that's true with every tale you hear about Big Pharma. They want to own the world and telling you what you can and can't take. And at the end of the day, medical business is a big business because it's a lobbying, it's pushed by the lobbyists, and they get a lot of breaks in DC. I know this firsthand, working in the industry than being a politician. So it's scary stuff. And always ask questions to people. Your doctors are not always right.
Right.
How many people were doctors responsible for killing them by putting them on ventilators? Turned out that was one of the worst decisions you could make with a COVID patient. Anyway, enough of that. Let's get to it, brother, because we could talk all night.
I hope we don't get shut down for all this stuff. I hope we don't get shut down for all this controversial jabber we're talking about.
I know. So tonight, my friends, it's our typical outline, we're going to talk the power rankings, some fantasy, and some basketball. But Eddie and I, just for y'all to know, are always in the background scene trying to figure out how to shorten the power rankings because we love talking football, but we know sometimes we get into the weeds. So we're going to keep doing our best to kind of make that more generalized for you guys. But Eddie, man, it was one of the most exciting weeks I have seen in years in the NBA. Let's talk a few storylines here real quick. First of all, Daniel Jones, ACL tear. Is he done in New York? 1 and 2. What do you think the Giants? I mean, what are they playing for now? I mean, do they have even? I mean, they're what 2-7 or something like that. What are your thoughts?
I think that the coach is trying to play for his job, honestly. Because unfortunately, that team was better than they are showing right now. But I think that first game of the year against the Cowboys, we thought that was kind of an aberration. Like, no, wait, are the Cowboys this good or are the Giants this bad? And at the time, we were thinking, it's the first game. Giants, they'll get it together. They were a playoff team last year. They played hard for this coach. And now they're like a shadow of who they were in the past. And, maybe this is Daniel Jones's last hurrah at New York. I mean, the poor guy always gets hurt, and it supports what you're saying, that a running quarterback doesn't really survive in the NFL. They have to learn how to be pocket passers, and he definitely relies on his legs more than his arm, and he got this big contract. But now, New York is going to be hurting now. So I think that Brian Daboll is playing for his job. I think he's going to try and win as many games as possible because he sees the writing on the wall if the team doesn't turn it around. So that's my call. I think they're going to try and win as much as they can. If they not, then they're going to do what the Commanders did and just do a fire sale on some of their key players because they have decent players on their defense. And of course, Saquon Barkley, a team will want to get him, especially a playoff team that needs a good running back. A la maybe the Seattle Seahawks potentially, someone like that, or other teams, in that nature. So, but anyway, so that's my role. That's my response to your question.
What I think will happen, he has a fully guaranteed contract for next year. So if they draft a rookie, he'll sit the bench and Jones will play it out. Maybe eventually down the season, they'll replace Jones with the rookie if they feel it's right. But they're going to be stuck with him for next year. And it's going to be a make it or break it year for Jones because, as you said, if they go for, if they go for a rookie, then he's on his way out of New York. And,
right.
and I think he'll probably do better. I think Daboll's a bully. You see it on the sideline. I've been watching football since the mid-1970s as a 5-6-year-old kid, and those coaches don't last. You see them. The only way those type of coaches last, like the Bill Parcells, is because they've got rings, baby. Parcells had 2,
Right.
and Daboll has nothing. So what I'm seeing is a bad team with the Giants, but I'm putting all that. Not as much on the players, but that coaching staff. And they all started to believe their hype in the preseason. This was the first preseason, maybe because of social media, where I saw so much on social media where they're putting an onus on how good their team was going to be based off the preseason. And I'm thinking, are you idiots? Yes, you are. But I think that's what's going to happen. And I don't think Daboll's playing for his job. I think he's going to be given a pass this year, but next year he will be. What about Cam Akers? Traded to the Vikings. First of all, they get Cam Akers. Then Cousins gets hurt. Then Jefferson gets hurt. Now Cam Akers gets hurt with another Achilles. What are your thoughts?
This is something that you pointed out last week in our podcast, that this Achilles injury has kind of become like this new epidemic in the NFL, and it's been going on for quite some time. But yeah, it seems to support your argument that, in the last 2 to 3 weeks, we've had multiple. It started out with Aaron Rodgers, who happened the first one, right? So,
right.
Unfortunately, Minnesota's just got some bad luck. But I got to tell you, that boy Joshua Dobbs, man, he showed up, with only, 5 days of practice or whatever he did. And I don't think he knew everybody's name on the team. He was just out there just rolling with the punches and just, improvising as he went. And he pulled out that win for the Vikings. So that was that was a legitimate showing by Joshua Dobbs. But that team is snake bitten, unfortunately. Justin Jefferson out with the hamstring. Then you got Kirk Cousins, who got his Achilles tear, and then you got Cam Akers in the same backfield. The quarterback and the running back both have the same injury. Fortunately for Minnesota, Cam Akers was more of a supplemental running back. You know, Alexander Madison is the main running back there. So, but that team is snake bitten. But you know, they have something to play for. I mean, it's Joshua Dobbs. We'll see what he could do next week. But they expect to have Jefferson back at some point, and you know they're not out of it. They're not out of it. They still can play for like a wild card spot, and who knows what. I mean, this guy showed up. If he has another week with the playbook and his improvisation skills, you know, and the guy, the best receiver in football coming back, hey, you never know. You got to roll with it. You got to see what you got.
You know, I'm very politically active, very politically involved, and I get into the tribalistic, meaning the blacks, Latinos, and whites. And one reason I get so angry is because when I see Joshua Dobbs, I see the American dream. That's the kid who doesn't have the talent of the elites or even the middle of the road players, but yet he's been thrust into situations that we dream of as a kid. And it didn't come through with Tennessee. It didn't come through with Arizona. But by God, if this is the best game he's ever played, this is one of the greatest memories he will ever have. I mean, how many times, Eddie, have we been as kids, any child in America, with that football, you know, fantasizing about being this player, that player. Oh, Super Bowl win,
absolutely, yeah.
I mean, it wasn't the Super Bowl, but that's the kind of game he had. And that's what I tell people. That's what you strive for. He's never quit. He could have rolled it up and said, well, I'm just not good enough. They don't want me. Been a victim, been whiny, do this. But instead, he played through it. And he's not becoming a multimillionaire, but even the lowest salary people earn six-figure. He's earning bank, but you cannot help but root for the kid. I want to talk about him a little bit more when we get into the Minnesota Vikings and the power rankings. But that to me is the greatest feel-good story. And the reason I said politics is when I talk to people, that's what I tell them. I said, look, man, this is a country where if you work hard, you will achieve success. I said, Eddie, am I not the average Joe? And look what I did with KFL. It was arguably the number one fantasy sports company in the country, you know, at one time. You know, so, and if I can do it, anybody can do it. So I look at the Joshua Dobbs story, and it blows me away. You know,
and you know Joshua Dobbs, if anything, he's gonna be on a team no matter what, whether it be with the Minnesota or another team. He played his way this last weekend to have a secure, at least a backup job in the NFL for as long as his career lasts. I mean, that guy.
I don't know about that, Eddie. You know, it's what have you done for me lately? But my point is, in that moment in time,
how many people could do what he did? There's not a lot of people who could do what he did. That's a lot.
He was in the huddle asking the receivers, okay, on this play, y'all are going to line up here. And then, you know, they're all working as a team. They're helping them out. But, I mean, it's like, my God, that's just – it's American dream, people. That shows what can happen if you work hard. All right. So I said Chiefs blow out the Seahawks and Lions 2 weeks ago. What I meant were the Baltimore Ravens. You know, so in Tier 1, my friend, the NFL Power Rankings, let's jump to it. Tier 1, the Philadelphia Eagles did nothing to lose their spot. They beat a very good Cowboys team. Kansas City Chiefs, look, they did what they had to do and beat the Dolphins with Travis Kelce minimized. Patrick Mahomes showed he's now a veteran and dispersed the ball, and they played well enough to win, both on offense and defense. The first half up 21-0. The second half, the defense comes and holds them in check. So the Chiefs aren't impressive, but they're beating who they had to beat, you know. Number 3, the team I want to talk about, the Baltimore Ravens at number 3. They did not destroy – I mean, they destroyed the Seattle Seahawks 37-3. And just, 2 weeks ago, they destroyed the Detroit Lions 38-6. The Lions are vying to be an elite team in the league, and that's how many are starting to see them. And they've shown they can be that type of team. And the Seahawks have always been one of the most physical teams in the NFL. What's your take on the Ravens and what they've done and their number 3 ranking? And I got to be honest, Eddie, I didn't do it, but the thoughts for the first time ever came, well, are they a number 2 team? You know, what are your thoughts?
You know, I got to tell you, Guillermo, like maybe about 3 or 4 weeks ago, you had them ranked relatively high at a time where I didn't think they deserved it. And that tells me that you actually saw some of these developments, you know, with respect to their skill set. You know, the fact that you pointed out J.K. Dobbins got hurt, and, you know, in the next man up, they're still rolling along, right? And, you know, now Lamar Jackson has become more of a pocket passer. They have an elite tight end there. They don't really have the greatest wide receiver core, but they get the job done, right? It's their defense. Their defense is just amazing right now. And even all the analysts out there in the NFL that you hear on any of the talk shows, local sports or even national sports, the Baltimore Ravens are now on everybody's radar. They definitely are one of the top 2 to 3 teams in the NFL right now, until someone figures them out and neutralize them, just like the Cleveland Browns did with the Niners, right? It can happen on a week. It can turn on a dime, but right now it doesn't look like anybody can slow them down. They definitely got rid. They definitely showed 2 of the better teams in the NFC that they're not even close to their level. So we'll see what happens in the upcoming weeks, but they definitely, I think, are in the top 3 for sure.
I agree. They're a scary team because not only can they play physical, Lamar Jackson is starting to learn how to be a better pocket passer. And I don't say this as much in this new age of offensive prowess, the rules made to help the offense versus the defense. But it's always been the case. A great quarterback can make an average receiver great and a great receiver elite. And you know where we're seeing that? Devontae Adams. People don't like to say that. When I first saw Devontae Adams play, I was like, oh, this guy's going to be great in this system, especially with Rodgers. And once he left that system, I knew his numbers would drop, but not everybody else thought he was the next. A receiver is contingent on his quarterback. But
Absolutely.
We're seeing – so my point is Lamar Jackson will make those receivers better. And Odell Beckham, I mean, what a sad sack. Finally got a TD, It's funny how good name recognition will get you. Real quick, do you think Odell Beckham is a Hall of Famer?
No.
Yeah, that's my take. All right, people, let's get to
Hall of Fame catches, though. Hall of Fame catches.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes.
Unbelievable catches. Probably the best catches you'll ever see, but not a Hall of Fame player.
See, that's a generational comment. I remember some of Lynn Swann's Super Bowl catch. I remember some of those catches by Swann and some of these these great receivers with the Redskins with their great team in the 80s. So that's a generational comment because those catches, they're rare, but they happen more often than people think. Elitism is on their radar. Number 4, the 49ers were in a bye week. Number 5, the Lions were in a bye week. They moved up 2 slots because of the drop of certain teams. And number 6, with a big jump from number 9 and a bigger jump from the previous week, the Cincinnati Bengals. Eddie, we don't need to talk about the 49ers or Lions. They're on a bye. Give me a couple of sentences about the Bengals and your thoughts on them.
Real quick, what about the Cowboys? Are the Cowboys in this list?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't finish the list. I got so excited because I got some comments about Burrows. So number 6, the Bengals. Number 7, the Cowboys, who lost to the Eagles in actually a very good game. And number 8, the Jacksonville Jaguars. So real quick, a couple of thoughts on the Bengals.
Hey, I was talking about the Bengals a few weeks ago, where I thought they should have been ranked higher on your rankings because of their past performance. They have great players. They unfortunately they were kind of Joe Burrow didn't have a preseason, and he was still trying to get in sync with his offense. And of course he had a calf injury that he was still recovering from, and it took him some time to get in sync and also feel comfortable enough to run around with his strained calf. But I think all of that's behind him now. That team looks in sync. All of a sudden they all came in sync all at once. In that 49er game where they beat them by 14 points, that definitely, I think, even increased their confidence even more than they already had it. They are already a confident team, but when they beat somebody like that, who's considered one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the NFL at the time, that I think they're just riding this boat right now. They're a confident bunch. They've been in the Super Bowl. Joe Burrow is an elite quarterback, and he got paid this offseason, and he's showing the league why he's that quarterback. So I think the Bengals, should be ranked higher from these rankings than what you have. But it's mostly because I think their record doesn't reflect better than some of these other teams that you had ranked ahead of them, but they're a better team right now than these other teams that you have. I think they're better than Detroit. I think they're better. Well, I don't know if they're better than. Yeah, I would say they're better than Dallas too. So I'd even put them higher than Dallas, and they're probably put them above San Francisco right now too because they just beat San Francisco.
Right. So here's the real deal, people. The reason I haven't ranked number 6, and they've moved up, they were ranked 20th just a few weeks ago, is Because of Joe Burrows, they moved up. Over the last 3 weeks, he's averaging 262 passing yards, about 3 touchdowns, and only 1 interception per game. The NFL is on. I mean, the man is on fire. However, their season's doomed. And here's why. They're averaging 21.3 rush attempts per game, tied for 26th worst in the league. The first few games of the season showed us if the Bengals don't have Joe Burrows at 100%, they suck and they can be beaten by anyone. When Joe Burrows is on fire, it spreads out to the whole team. Why? He's clicking. The whole team starts to click. Why? Because if that offense is passing, scoring touchdowns, it vitalizes the team and they all play better, and it makes life easier for the defense, knowing your guy's throwing up 30 points, and you can compete with anybody. Without Joe Burrows, they're nobody. That's the bottom line. In fact, their number 6 ranking is well-deserved, well-earned. But when the playoffs come around, this is why they lose to the Chiefs. Back in the 70s, when Terry Bradshaw broke his neck and then wrist and whatever, they had a complete team. And their backup took him to the AFC Championship game where they lost 76 to the Raiders. But they didn't have Rocky Bleier, Franco Harris, or Terry Bradshaw. But they competed. People don't realize the Dolphins' perfect season, Earl Morrell was their starting quarterback after Bob Greasy broke his ankle. And so my point is, great, elite, perennial powerhouses can win. Even the Vikings, look how they're doing with this magic smoke and mirrors. The Bengals aren't that type of team. They lose Joe Burrows, they're done, period.
Yeah, but I would say the same thing about the Chiefs. If they lose Pat Mahomes, they're done, period. Who else is on that team that can carry them? I mean, other than Travis Kelce. And you just said that the receivers, their performance is contingent on the player that's throwing the ball to them. What do they have?
Well, hold on. That's why the 49ers are ranked higher. If they lose their quarterback Purdy, they have enough depth to logically replace him. And you're right on the Chiefs and the Eagles too. That's my issue. Is the NFL's built around one elite guy. You lose him, you're toast. And so I look at other teams like the Lions. They're building an all-around team. It's not predicated on Jared Goff being the man, The Jaguars, it's not predicated on Trevor Lawrence being the man. The Dolphins, I truly believe, can put another quarterback in. They did last year. He performed pretty well. Skylar Thompson. The Cleveland Browns. No Deshaun Watson, not playing well. They're still finding ways to win. The Seahawks, with an average quarterback in Geno Smith, still finding ways to win. So that's why people are like, you don't want to play the Seahawks. Somebody once asked me, why do people always say that? I said, because the Seahawks are a very physical team, and they're not just good at one facet of the game. They're built for winter playoff weather and winter playoff games. And the Bengals are not. In fact, had their head coach had any common sense, they'd be a Super Bowl champ right now. Joe Mixon helped take him to the Super Bowl. What happens? He just, hey, Joe, come over here. Threw him in the closet, and we never saw him again for the rest of the game, So that's my whole point on that, and I apologize to everybody and you, Eddie. We kind of stayed on that topic there a little too long. Okay, give me a couple of sentences on the Cowboys and your thoughts. They lost to the Eagles, but do you think that game helped solidify that the Cowboys are one of the better teams in the league?
I think the Cowboys actually showed up pretty good against the Eagles. The Eagles are just a more dominant. They're stronger in the trenches than the Cowboys on both sides. But I think the Cowboys played the Eagles pretty damn well, and I think it's primarily because they're a division opponent. They know each other pretty well. But the Cowboys, I think, turned around their season when it could have gone awry after that Niner game, and the Niners, unfortunately, kind of went in the opposite direction when you didn't think that would be possible after a huge win like that. But the Cowboys showed me that they're tough. And I think, I hate the Cowboys, by the way. I hate supporting that team. It's deep-rooted, man. But I got to give it up to them. They actually showed up, and I think they showed the NFL that they're a team that can contend, at least in the playoffs. I don't know if they're a Super Bowl contender yet. They could be, but, maybe they make a trade. I don't know, but, maybe a Saquon Barkley on that team would make a difference, right? You never know, right? I mean, but with the New York Giants trade with the Cowboys is another thing. But anyway, the Cowboys, to me, they have a good D. They have good, key position players, skill position players. That was the word I was trying to remember last week when I couldn't remember. But anyway, so CeeDee Lamb is good. They have a Jake Ferguson who's good as a tight end. They have good skill position players, and Gallup as well as another one, Michael Gallup. And I just think that they showed up, and I think they showed that they can hang with a good, the league's best team in the Eagles.
I agree. They can hang with anybody. I think their problem is they don't know how to win the tough games. And to me, that comes – see, my military training, the one thing it taught me was you need that leadership, that no-nonsense guy who will jack you up but then also tell you the positives. And they don't have that kind of leadership on the Cowboys, and I think that's holding them back. But I can't argue your point. And number 8, the Jacksonville Jaguars on a bye. All right, moving on to the next tier. Better than average, but still has kinks to work out. Number 9, the Miami Dolphins. Number 10, the Cleveland Browns. There's only 2 teams in this tier, and I wanted to talk to you real quick about the Miami Dolphins. What are your thoughts at the fact they have not beaten a team above 500? They are 6-3, and all 3 losses are the teams above 500.
Yeah, I think that the better teams that they're going up against, they typically have a better defense, and these defensive guys know how to contain that speed. In whatever scheme that they're using to contain them, because once you contain that speed, then they're essentially relegated to be somewhat of a mediocre offense, right? But their defense is decent too, but it's not like Super Bowl contending type of defense. It's decent, but it's not there. And the defense alone isn't going. They're not built to win with that defense. They're built to win with that offense. And if there's schemes that shuts that offense down, which has happened now, then they can't win. So I would say that I think there's a blueprint that has been created to slow down this team, and I think people are continuing to apply that until the Dolphins adjust and figure it out. But right now they're looking like a better than average team that has the potential to be great. But, they have to, I think, adjust to what's being done to them right now by these defensive coordinators, by these better teams that they're facing.
I agree. I have 2 comments regarding the Dolphins. One, they're a year too soon. This is only Mike McDaniel's second year. They're still learning everything about that massive playbook. And it takes a team a couple years. I mean, how many times in history have we seen one team get beat, keep it close, then the next year they begin to dominate? And I think they're still at least a year away from that. And number 2, I would not go out to replace him. But if a quarterback fell my way, I would look towards him. I think Tua is great in that offense, but I think he has limitations with his arm and sometimes his reads. But the Dolphins are a team on the rise. All right, the next tier, pretenders or contenders. Number 11, the Buffalo Bills. Number 12, the Seahawks. And number 13, the Chargers, who won tonight against the Jets and did it in a satisfying fashion, meaning it wasn't a luck win. They went in there and dominated that team from the get-go. But I want to talk about the Bills. They are 5-4. They've just lost to the Bengals. Are they done?
No, I don't think they're done. They've shown that they are a team that can pretty much hang with almost anybody, at least on the offensive side. And for whatever reason, their defense, which was pretty daunting the last few years, has slipped a little bit. Don't know exactly why. Maybe it's because, there's maybe, I don't know, too many turnovers being done by the Buffalo Bills. I mean, they do turn the ball over. Josh Allen does turn the ball over more than an elite quarterback should. And, there's also some, leadership things there going on too that, I don't know. Josh Allen, I think, has the ability to be that, but I don't think he is showing that. So, I think something needs to change there from the way that they're currently doing things, because it's not showing up in wins like that team should be winning right now. They're not. I don't know if it's just that they're so one-dimensional on the offense that they're a pass-happy team, and essentially their running back, their best running back is Josh Allen, and that's a recipe for disaster if he gets hit in the wrong way. I mean, that he's a big kid. He's like 240 something pounds. He's a big dude. But it doesn't matter if you get hit on the lower leg or something. You twist that leg in a certain way, it's over. So I think that what really haunts that team is a good running game, not a Josh Allen based running game, but a true running game. That's another team that Saquon Barkley would be a great fit for. So
I agree.
that's what I
I
think
agree.
the Giants could actually make a move with them. So anyway, those are my 2 cents.
Well, actually, I think Saquon Barkley's a free agent next year, and with the way this team's going, I don't know if he wants to be a Giant. They can
Right.
franchise tag him, but that I think that's the only way he stays with that team. So I think teams will be courting him. And you're right. I've got a few takes on the Bills. I'll keep it quick. One, regarding their highly rated defense, it's always been highly overrated. I broke it down over the last couple of years. I did this about a year ago. And they would clamp down on terrible teams, mediocre teams. And then the Chiefs, the Bengals, those types, they throw up 30 points. So when it came to playoff time, their defense was average. And we saw that against the Kansas City Chiefs a couple years ago. Two, Josh Allen is their offense, just like Joe Burrow's. That offense goes through Josh Allen. They're one-dimensional. Again, come playoff time, you stop Josh Allen, you stop the Bills. They're older. They have not upgraded their team. Their players are older. Von Miller, is older. He's just a highly price player now. I mean, he still has talent, but he's not the dominant player he was a couple years ago. I truly think this team may have missed their window, and we're seeing that now. I'm not saying they have, but they are one-dimensional, and they can't get it done. And most importantly, they don't have leadership on that team from what I see. Josh Allen is not the veteran leader. He's more like a kid, one of the guys. I'm telling you. It's like when I think NFL team leader, you know who I think? The Ravens. Oh my God,
Lamar
Ray.
Jackson? Lamar Jackson?
No, Ray Rice. No, not Ray Rice. Oh my God, the great defensive player.
You're talking about Ray Lewis?
Ray Lewis. Oh my God. Exactly, Ray Lewis. That's what I'm thinking about, veteran. That no nonsense. The type of guy there's no young punks going to go up and talk trash to. The Bills don't have that, in my opinion. And you know what helps that, Eddie? Having veterans and a coaching staff with Super Bowl rings. And I'm not sure. I mean, Von Miller, and when you're hurt, it's tough to be a team leader. All right.
The thing, real quick, the last point, though, I mean, I think part of the reason that they're struggling, too, is because they're so pass happy, their offense isn't their defense actually stays on the field longer than most teams because they're so pass happy, right? They don't have a running game that's going to just milk the clock. That's why I think if they make a move to get someone like a Saquon Barkley, that puts them back into contention.
But Eddie, trade deadline's over. Barkley's not going anywhere.
I'm just saying.
I'm just
putting that out there right now as something to consider. Whether off season or whatever, just that guy would make sense. They need a running game to take the next step. That's my whole point. Is their window's not shut. If they get someone like that, then they have an opportunity to.
It's funny. Because you agree with me about their one-dimensionalness, but you don't with the Bengals. And it's literally mirror images of each other. One player
the Bengals have 3 good wide receivers on that team. And they have the good running back. It's the play calling in Cincinnati.
Yeah. Yes. But hold on, Eddie. When Burrows was hurt, how effective were those receivers?
Well, how good is their back?
T. Higgins finally made an appearance. Actually, they didn't play their backup quarterback. I think they went with Burrows. Oh, one game they may have.
Burrows played. But Burrow played.
Yeah. But my point is, without Burrows, those receivers sucked. Their numbers sucked. T. Higgins he disappeared all season until this week. When Joe Burrows is healthiest. So anyway, let's move on here. The rest of the best are pretenders. The Steelers at 14. The Texans make a big jump from 24 to 15. The Jets drop to number 16. The Saints, and that was a big setback, this loss against the Chargers, the game they should have won. The Saints are number 17, and that's it for that tier. So, real quick, the Steelers 14, the Texans 15, the Jets at 16, the Saints at 17. I want to talk about the Texans. Can they really compete for a playoff spot?
Yeah, I think they can, for sure. I mean, they're not in the strongest division, so yeah, I think they have a shot, for sure. And especially the way C.J. Stroud played this last weekend, I mean, that is a confidence builder if there isn't any for a team. They have a who's who as far as their key position players, right? They name 2 of their wide receivers, right? I bet you most of the audience are like, unless they play fantasy football, they'll like struggle to figure that out, right? Who those 2 wide receivers are. So their running back situation isn't that great either. They have Damian Pierce hasn't really done anything. Devin Singletary, who's done here and there, but other than that, I mean, C.J. Stroud is carrying that team the last few weeks, and he really carried
all season.
touchdowns. Yeah, I mean, yeah, but he's a rookie. He's coming up to speed, right? And they're opening up the playbook more and more for him now, and I think they're going to open up even more. And D'Amico Ryans is one of those leader types. I mean, he definitely is one of those raw kind of head coaches that stands behind their players. And this is the moment I think C.J. Stroud is stepped up to be the man on that team, and I think he's going to carry that team on his shoulders as long as he doesn't get injured. And, as long as the supporting cast helps him out as well, because he can't do it alone.
D'Amico Ryans, when I talk about veteran leadership from the coaching staff and players, that's D'Amico Ryan. When he was a player and now as a head coach, it's one of those where he will get in your face and tell you how it is, but he'll also pump you up. Now, let's give credit where credit is due. C.J. Stroud had the greatest game out of any rookie ever in the history of the NFL. 30 of 42 for 470 yards, 5 touchdowns and no interceptions. This is why they may compete for the division, but they're nobody. They're facing the 29th ranked pass defense. Now, granted, I'm not taking anything away from him. I'm just saying this is one of those games where the hype starts. But the reality is the Bucs defense is disgraceful. Todd Bowles should be fired. The guy has done a terrible job with the Jets. He's doing a terrible job with the Bucs. He is a great defensive coordinator. Whenever he's a defensive coordinator, those teams are like in the top elite echelons. But as a head coach, his defense is just a shadow of what it is. So I love the Texans. Do not get me wrong. And again, a great quarterback will make an average receiver great, a great receiver elite. And that's what we're seeing here. So I don't buy into who are his receivers. I don't care who's the quarterback. Brett Favre made Sterling Sharp a better player than he was. That's how I look at things. Joe Montana made Jerry Rice and I forget his sidekick for many years. Great.
John Taylor.
John Taylor, great. And Troy Aikman, the rushing attack and the number one receiver, Michael Irvin, opened it up and made Alvin Harper, an average receiver, look great. What happened to Alvin Harper when he went to the Bucs? Disappeared.
Yeah.
So C.J. Stroud is carrying that team. All right. Moving on to the next segment, the Get It Together or Else and Overachievers section here. All right. The Colts at number 18. The Commanders at number 19. The Titans at number 20. The Falcons at number 21. The Bucs at number 22. The Broncos at number 23. The Raiders at number 24. The Packers at number 25, the Vikings at number 26, and that's it. And real quick, I dropped the Vikings. They dropped the notch because as much as I love Joshua Dobbs' story, that team is like the pigskin gods are just saying, it's not your year, And so out of that tier, Eddie, any teams you want to comment on?
I mean, the Vikings is a good one to comment on. I mean, they're a winning team right now. They're 5-4, missing arguably their two best offensive weapons on that team, and yet here they are. They're 5-4 and getting their offensive weapon coming back next week. Their defense is decent. It's not great, but it's decent, and they can move the ball. Joshua Dobbs, another week under his belt with his playbook, with the number one receiver. I think they should be ranked higher, but I understand why you have them where you're ranked, but I think that they're right now a team that is on the rise based on what they did this last weekend, and I think that they were on the rise after they beat the 49ers, and unfortunately, the football gods have struck them down with these major key injuries, and that is the only thing that's really holding them back, but they're showing some moxie. They showed it last weekend. And I think they're going to show it again. So I think that they're a team that we're going to watch out for in the next few weeks. I think this is like potentially a Nick Foles type of situation with the Eagles, right? When he took them all the way, right? Hey, Josh Dobbs, everybody's rooting for the kid. I mean, he showed up and he with only less than 5 days, didn't know all his players, and he did what he did and came back in the fashion that he did. That was freaking awesome. So I'm pulling for this kid, and I'm pulling for the Minnesota Vikings because of this kid.
Oh, so am I. I hope they win every week. It's ironic because one of the few players I have watched play literally every week going back to last year is Joshua Dobbs. I've seen him with the Titans, and then I watched him with the Cardinals preseason and in season, and I saw a good chunk of the game. And the problem with Josh Dobbs is he's an average quarterback. He's a great player to root for because of he should technically be out of the league by most accounts, but he survived. So he's one of the greatest feel-good stories you'll see in the NFL from the last few years. But at the end of the day, he's an average quarterback. And Kirk Cousins, people don't like to say it, but I'll say is an elite quarterback in terms he doesn't have a ring, but he's like Dan Fouts. The offense goes through him and he posts touchdowns and moves the yardsticks, etc. That's how that team is built. Joshua Dobbs is not built to handle the team, so they're going to scale back that offense. They have to. I mean, he's at week 8. He's got to learn a new playbook, and they don't have the rushing attack that they need to offset it. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm a realist with the big picture. But hell yeah, I'm rooting for this kid. I mean, my God, that's the type of kid. If I had a little boy, I said we're going to go get his autograph. You're going to take a picture by him because he's the American dream to me, and I love that. And that's why I tell people, doesn't matter what. Look at you, Eddie. You're living in a high-price area, doing very well for yourself. You've worked hard. You're getting ready to send your daughter to a private university.
Public.
Oh, is it public?
No, that's what I want it to be, though.
There you go. And you've lived the American dream, and you're the classic brown Latino. So people say you shouldn't be doing that shouldn't be the case, but it is because it's America.
Exactly, man. The land of opportunity, man. As long as you take advantage, you can make something of yourself.
Exactly. All righty. Let's go to the final tier here. What the hell? We have no clue, or we're playing for draft positions, people. At number 27, the Los Angeles Rams. The salary cap hell and the mercenaries finally got to them, and they are nothing today. Ranked 27. The Chicago Bears at 28. Now, they're not near the bottom because they've been playing pretty good football the last few weeks, and they get Justin Fields back. At number 29, the New England Patriots at 2-7. The worst start we've ever seen from a Bill Belichick team since his first season with the Patriots. And this team, I think it's just talent. They just don't have very good talent. And there's something wrong with that culture there. I don't know what, but there's something wrong there. Number 30, the Carolina Panthers. Look, Bryce Young is looking horrible. I mean, I'm not seeing him move forward like some of the other quarterbacks are. So I'm not concerned because it's Frank Reich, and he's a great teacher with fundamentals. But hey, there's franchise quarterbacks and there's busts. We don't know which way he's headed yet. Number 31, the New York Giants. They're on their third string quarterback, an undrafted free agent. And I'm assuming he's Italian with Tommy DeVito. I'm sure the Italians are happy, but not the Giant fans.
Danny DeVito's dad or son, I should say.
And at 32, the Arizona Cardinals. Look, they traded Josh Dobbs away because Kyler Murray's coming in. Big John calls him the midget because he's 2 feet tall. But they traded Josh Dobbs. So this week, that 27-0 game against the Browns in elite defense was very expected, and I'm not sure Kyler Murray will do better. Any of the teams there you want to comment on, Eddie? The Rams, the Bears, the Patriots, the Panthers, the Giants, or the Cardinals?
Yeah, I like Tyson Bagent. I think he's actually showed that he's actually a decent quarterback in the NFL. He's played decently for the Chicago Bears. Chicago Bears really don't have much talent on the offensive end. I would argue they don't have much talent in general on that team. And I don't want to bash the team, and all these individuals that might be listening to this podcast. I'm just saying that as a collective, they really don't have that many star players to help, carry this team. They had Justin Fields, who's a primarily run first quarterback, but, I think he's coming around to become a pocket quarterback at some point. But Tyson Bagent showed, in my opinion, what Justin Fields should be, a pocket passer first who has the ability to run, because Tyson Bagent can run. So I'm pulling for that kid. I think he's, playing, for a contract with potentially, some other team that needs a quarterback, because I think he showed up pretty well. So I would say the Chicago Bears, for the amount of lack of talent that they have on that team collectively, when relatively speaking to the rest of the other NFL teams, I would say that they've actually played decently considering all the factors.
Well, Badger's going to go back to the bench because they expect Fields back, and I don't know if that team's completely devoid of talent, but bad play calling, some bad decisions by the front office. But they've been playing better football the last few weeks, so maybe they're finally coming around. Let's not forget it's a new regime in place there too. Yeah. So it takes time, and I really love the way Justin Fields has looked the last few weeks because he's finally starting to understand that he needs to have a pocket presence, and from there, I mean, look at Jalen Hurts. How he's playing. I kind of see them as mirror images in the style of play at times too. And there you have it, my friends. Our NFL Power Rankings. So let's move on, Eddie. Let's move on to where Eddie takes charge. What was that show with Bill Bixby called? God, we're old. Eddie something.
The Courtship of Eddie's Father.
There you go.
We're old, man. We are old. We're just like pulling stuff from the 70s, man. We are just old. We gotta
hey.
With our audience here, man.
that was a top 10 show. I'm sure if you head towards TV Land, you can find it.
And by the way, for those of you who don't know, the Bill Bixby, the guy who the main character was actually the person who actually turned into the Incredible Hulk actor, with Lou Ferrigno back in the 70s too. He was the original Incredible Hulk, Bill Bixby. So
yes, he was. Bill Bixby had a phenomenal career. My Favorite Martian, The Courtship of Eddie, The Magicians, The Hulk. And what I try to tell people who want to be actors and stars, look, fame is fleeting. Who here has heard of Bill Bixby? Yeah, in his time, he was one of the biggest stars in America. Yeah. Everybody knew him. Yeah. Fame is fleeting. All right, Eddie, let's get down to it and to the world. This is our fantasy football segment. And let's get it going. Quarterbacks. Any quarterbacks out there worth grabbing?
Oh, man, you got to be kidding me. You got to go with Joshua Dobbs, man. I mean, the guy is going to be playing for the rest of the season with the best wide receiver coming back in the NFL with a team that actually is playing for something.
Whoa. You're not saying to pick up Dobbs and start him, are you?
Yeah. I would put I'm only picking, we're at this point in the NFL season that we're going for streaming plays right now in case that you have a quarterback.
You just got to be clear. You got to be clear on that.
Yeah, well, I mean, for people who listen to the show play fantasy football, they know that their teams are already been drafted. That these are stream plays, right? If we're trying to educate the audience who doesn't know about fantasy football, shame on them. They got to figure this out right now, right? So
damn.
These are stream plays right now, right? These are not guys that you're going to replace, someone like a Lamar Jackson or someone, like a Joe Burrow, or anybody like that. These are guys that if you have a bye week and need to fill in, this is the guy. So Joshua Dobbs, in my opinion, is the number one guy on that list. The other guy that I would consider too is Kyler Murray. I mean, the guy can play. He's coming back. They got rid of Joshua Dobbs, we're talking about the same guy, so they make room for this guy to become the starter again, and they need to see what they have as far as, the rest of the supporting cast around Kyler Murray, if, Kyler Murray can actually improve this team, from where they're at right now. So, it's going to be questionable to see how long they're going to play him, but, hey, he's a talented guy. He gets a lot of running, points as a running back, as a running quarterback, so I would say he's number 2. So those are the main 2 from the quarterback that I would point out.
All right. So I wouldn't look at Dobbs because I know how I draft. I always make sure to get a quality number 2 quarterback just in case of injuries. And I hope Aaron Rodgers owners do that. As far as Kyler Murray, that's a good one, actually. I hadn't thought of it because you're right. He can put up fantasy points. Yeah. He just can't put up W's in games that matter. All right, running back.
So, I've already mentioned quite a few of these from weeks past. So I would say the one guy
let's stick with the top 3 then.
No, I'm only going to give you one. So I'm going to give you one.
There you go.
The one guy that you want to target is Keaton Mitchell for the Baltimore Ravens. The guy, he scored 20.4 points. In the running backs position in Baltimore, they score well. Gus Edwards is actually the main guy who gets most of the points there. But this kid Keaton Mitchell, I mean, he's gonna play. He's gonna play. They're gonna running back by committee because he also played Justice Hill as well. So, but But this guy Mitchell showed up this last week, and I think he earned more snaps in the coming week. So I would say he's the guy to target from the running back position.
Well, Gus is the TD back, so he'll get everything between the 20s. Gus will get the TD.
Yeah, but he also gets the first and second down running plays, for the most part in the offense.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. I'm telling you, this new kid will get in between the 20s, but they'll bring in, was it Gus Edwards? They'll bring him in for those goal line, kind of like Marion Butts. Remember Marion Butts in the day, 20 years ago? He had one season he had 8 or 12 TDs and 20 snaps. It seemed like,
Yeah.
All right.
He does more than that. Gus Edwards does more than that. So
yes.
I have him on my fantasy team, so I know.
Yeah.
So,
but my point to the fantasy owners is be aware he may be pulled out of the game inside the 5 for Gus Edwards.
Yep.
It's also who the coaches trust.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right, wide receiver, Eddie.
So I would say that there's probably 2 that stick out to me. Actually, maybe 3. So the first one that I would point out is, the New England Patriots, as anemic as their offense is, they still throw the ball, and there's got to be wide receivers who catch the ball there. They unfortunately lost Kendrick Bourne to a season-ending injury last week, and so he is on season-ending IR. So somebody's got to catch the ball over there. So the guy that I would point out is Demario Douglas. He was actually a pretty popular streaming play this week, and I would continue with that trend of picking this guy up if he's not already been picked up in your league. So Demario Douglas of the New England Patriots. Number 2, Noah Brown. This guy showed up out of nowhere. He actually used to play for the Dallas Cowboys. He's now on the Houston Texans, and he caught a few balls. Actually, I think he caught 1 touchdown pass, one of the 5 touchdown passes from C.J. Stroud, and had a huge game. So I would say that it's obvious that the Houston Texans are going to throw the ball, and they distribute the ball. They have Noah Brown is probably their second or third wide receiver. They really don't have big name guys there, but he's a guy that you definitely want to target because they throw the ball a lot. Obviously, if the rookie quarterback threw 470 yards last week and threw 5 touchdowns, you definitely want to target a wide receiver on that team. So that's the guy that I would target is Noah Brown. The other guy that I would target, another anemic offense is the Green Bay Packers. Unfortunately, Jordan Love hasn't really moved the ball very well. They have great running backs in Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, but for whatever reason, they have a hard time moving the ball over there. So, but Christian Watson actually just got hurt, and we don't know how long he's going to be out. So Romeo Dobbs is the guy that I would target if he's not already on somebody else's roster right now. So those wrap it up for the wide receiver. And the last category, Guillermo, is the tight end. Now, there's quite a few people on this list, but a lot of these people that I've already brought up in past. So I've already brought up, John O. Smith a few times in the past. I've already brought up Taysom Hill in the past. But a guy that you definitely want to target who's coming off of IR is Pat Freiermuth of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's actually coming off of IR this week, and he's a guy that's in a red zone target for a quarterback that struggles in Kenny Pickett. And I think Kenny Pickett looked for him quite a bit until Pat got hurt earlier this year. So he's a tight end that I would target for your fantasy streaming this week. The last guy that I would point out is Luke Musgrave for the Green Bay Packers. Again, they're an anemic offense, but the tight ends are safety valves for a struggling quarterback. So I would say that he's another guy to target from the tight end position.
How long has Musgrave been in the league?
This is his first year.
He's
a rookie.
Any relation to is it Bill Musgrave, the former quarterback?
Yeah, I think I'm not sure. The same last name, but I'm not sure. I don't know.
Gotcha. Yeah. Who can tell? You can never tell. I'm looking here real quick as we talk. But Doug Musgrave played quarterback at Oregon. His uncle, there it is, his uncle, Bill Musgrave.
Is it really?
Played
Okay.
quarterback at Oregon before playing and coaching in the NFL. So it's just that one type of name that you don't forget. And Bill Musgrave, I knew, was a career perennial backup, but heck. Again, it's like Joshua Dobbs. He's living the American dream, so good for him. All right, Eddie. Let's get into your favorite topic here, the NBA.
Hey, man, NBA has been awesome, man.
So, what are some of the early storylines?
So, hey, remember we've been talking about James Harden. Well, James Harden finally got his wish and actually got traded to the Los Angeles Clippers.
Really?
So the Clippers made a deal with the Sixers, and they gave up a lot. The Clippers gave up a lot of good, NBA talent from a veteran standpoint that could help any team, but essentially James Harden, PJ Tucker, and some other was thrown in by the Sixers. In return, they had Nicholas Batum. It was the guy who went along with Robert Covington, and then also Marcus Morris. Those are three good wing players that the Sixers can utilize in their rotation today, and they're all defensive-minded guys, and they all have decent, rebounding skills. They're all bigger guys, so I would say that the Sixers did very well in this trade, and it's going to remain to be seen what happens with the Clippers. I mean, they played tonight. James Harden played tonight, and guess what? The Clippers lost.
So he didn't play well.
Yeah, but he didn't play that long. But I mean, he played decently. But the thing is that James Harden is a type of player that is used to having the ball in his hands. He's been the primary ball, the main facilitator on the teams in the last 4 to 5 years of the teams that he's been, because he's been with the Sixers, the Brooklyn Nets, the Houston Rockets, all these teams. He was the main facilitator. He was essentially the point guard. And now, the Clippers, they have a Russell Westbrook, who's arguably considered one of the best point guards that we've seen in the NBA from a statistical standpoint, not necessarily from a championship standpoint, but from a statistical standpoint, he's considered one of the best all-around point guards in the NBA. So now what's going to happen is he was thrust in the starting five, James Harden. So you have a team with Russell Westbrook, you have Paul George, you have Kawhi Leonard, and then you have James Harden. Those four, along with Ivica Zubac, who is the center, and that's a star-studded team. The thing is that they have to figure out how to gel together. This is the third time that James Harden has played with Russell Westbrook, because they played together at Oklahoma City. That's where they first started their careers together, along with Kevin Durant. I mean, can you believe that? Those three guys on the same team, and they didn't win a championship? Amazing, right? I mean, those are three Hall of Fame, arguably Hall of Fame players. I mean, for sure, Kevin Durant's a Hall of Famer. I think Russell Westbrook for sure will be as well, but just because of what he did from a triple-double standpoint. And James Harden, I think, will be as well, just because he's a really good offensive player that hasn't won anything yet. It remains to be seen if he's going to win anything now. But, this is the third time that Russell Westbrook and James Harden have teamed up together. Oklahoma City, Houston Rockets, and now the Clippers. Third time's the charm, or is it third time's the strike? We shall see. It's going to be interesting to see how Tyronn Lue gets this team going, because you had pointed out, Guillermo, that this guy kind of can become a cancer. He doesn't really play defense very well, and the Clippers are actually a very defensive minded team. So I think that they have some players I think that will check him. At least tell him, hey, you got to get. Paul George will definitely check him. He's not playing defense. Kawhi Leonard's a little bit more quiet. I don't think he will. Russell Westbrook will, because Russell Westbrook knows this guy, and defense is a big deal, a big proponent for winning in the Los Angeles Clippers. So it will be interesting to see how this all develops. But just wanted to point that out. That's the first thing I want to point out about James Harden, because he's been a popular topic that we talked about in the last few weeks.
22 months, 4 teams. He's not a Hall of Famer. I don't care how good he is. He's a cancer. And so my final question regarding Harden to you. Where did the Clippers rank? Or you gave us your top 8 teams in both conferences a couple of weeks ago. Where do the Clippers now rank with Harden? The fact you have to go, tells me it's a trade that's not going to pan out.
I had him at number 7 before the season started. That's where I kind of ranked them. I would say that's still about the same. I would say they could be 7 or 8, in my opinion, just because they still have to figure out how to vibe. They still have to figure out if they can play all 82 games because of this load management thing right now, because these guys are notorious for resting their players. So I would say I had him at number 7. I'll keep him at number 7.
Any other trends you're seeing, Eddie?
So I'll tell you that the up-and-coming teams, that I pointed out in the West, I'll focus on the West first. You have the Oklahoma City Thunder. That team looks really, really good. I mean, they just played the Warriors the other night in one of the first in-season tournament games. This past week, this is the first week of the in-season tournament games. Actually, it was last week. That was the first in-season tournament games. And they played against Oklahoma City Thunder, and they won 141 to 139. It was like one of the highest scoring games of the year.
Wow.
And Oklahoma City, barely lost that game, and they actually were playing without their best player. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. He was the guy that I was telling you in the ESPN Top 100. He was the one guy I didn't agree with. He was that number 8, and I'm thinking that Devin Booker or Jimmy Butler should be there instead of this guy. But anyway, that's the kid that we're talking about. He's the best player on that team, and actually played the Warriors really well. I mean, they were shooting like 60% for the game for the most part.
Wow.
It was unbelievable. I mean, 60% for an NBA game is unheard of, right? Especially for a team that shoots a lot of outside shots. So OKC is a team to watch. Chet Holmgren, in my opinion, like I mentioned last week, I think he's going to be the rookie of the year, in my opinion. Wembanyama is getting all the fanfare, and deservedly so, because he's unbelievable. And if you ever seen his highlights of his first few weeks of the NBA, he is looking like a really, really good player. And so just keep your eye on that. But Chet Holmgren is a guy to watch. I think he's going to be a problem. The other thing that I'll point out is the Suns. That's a team that I picked to be a contender. They haven't played all of their big three yet. You know, Bradley Beal has been out, and he's had some back issues. Devin Booker's only played 2 games. He's played against the Warriors the first game, and then one of the other games he just played too. And you know, they're struggling a little bit because they don't have the chemistry right now. Kevin Durant especially has been carrying that team. Eric Gordon, who's been, you know, a guy that they just added from the offseason from the Clippers, he's actually been doing pretty well as well. And then, you know, Grayson Allen, who came from the Milwaukee Bucks. Those 3 have been the main primary offensive guys, without those 2 other guys that are currently hurt right now. And then Yusuf Nurkic is a good center for that team. That team still scares me. They're just not gelling yet, but I think they're going to be a team to watch, because they actually have been playing pretty well even without all 3 superstars playing at the same exact time. The other guy that I'll point out, and I've already pointed this out before, Guillermo, is the Warriors. The Warriors don't look now, but they're in second place in the West right now. I mean, the number 1 team, actually, they're number 3 in the West. I'll take that back. They're number 3 because, surprisingly, the Dallas Mavericks are actually the number 2 team, along with the number 1 team, the Denver Nuggets. That I did not see Dallas Mavericks being that good, especially because for the most part their team is exactly the same as last year. I think they're just maybe gelling better. Maybe it's just their schedule. But the Warriors, they currently, and I've brought this up, they currently have the best bench in the NBA from a statistical standpoint, from a net rating standpoint. They have the best bench, and primarily it's because of Chris Paul. Right now, the Chris Paul experiment on the second team for the Warriors, it's been a resounding great results have been shown so far. And, you know, it shows that you have somebody who rarely turns the ball over, which was a big issue with them last year when they had Jordan Poole.
Right.
And Poole was, you know, he was this very streaky shooter, good offensive player, but he turned the ball over. And the Warriors were like ranked almost dead last in turnovers last year. Yet, you know, their starting 5 were considered the best in the whole entire NBA. So I think Chris Paul has definitely helped them out tremendously. And the last one that I'll point out are the Kings. The Kings are struggling right now. And the Kings, I put them as a playoff team, and primarily because De'Aaron Fox has been hurt. He's missed his last 3 games. They got blown out tonight by the Houston Rockets. And the Houston Rockets were a losing team. They're an up-and-coming team. They have some good talent on that team. They have Dylan Brooks. They have Fred VanVleet. But, you know, they got killed by 25 points. You know, the 25 points the Sacramento Kings lost.
Right. But it's one game in a long season.
But still, that's a little shocking. If that happened to the Warriors getting beat by 25 points, I would be kind of concerned. If that happened to the Denver Nuggets, you'd be like, what the hell? Even though it's one game, you're like, what? Right? So it still matters, you know, from a psyche standpoint. Yeah, I mean, they have a lot of runway to make up for that. But still, it's a little alarming when a team that was the 3rd best team in the NBA last year gets beat by 25 by an up-and-coming team like that. Yeah, the NBA can happen any week. It's a week-to-week thing or a day-to-day thing. You just never know, right? But those are the main things. The thing that I didn't see coming from the West is the Memphis Grizzlies. I did not see the Memphis Grizzlies losing 6 games in a row. They finally won a game. They beat Portland in a back-to-back. They lost the first game to Portland, then they won the second game, but they barely beat them. It took like a heroic performance by Desmond Bane to pull it out. But, you know, that concerns me. They missed a little bit of swagger from Ja Morant and Dylan Brooks, both of those. And, of course, they lost Steven Adams for the year because of a knee surgery that he had. But something's wrong there. I mean, that team I had up there in the top, you know, 5 in the West, but they're struggling right now, and they're struggling to find themselves. In the East, the Celtics definitely look like the team to beat. We've brought this up multiple times. they play about six people deep, because their starting five, consists of Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Drew Holiday, Jason Tatum, Kristaps Porzingis. Those are the starting five, and it's a huge. I mean, those guys are great. But then you have Al Horford coming off the bench at number 6, and then after that, it's a bunch of no names. Sam Hauser, whoever else, right? So we're like, okay, if something happens with one of those main guys, that team could be screwed. But they lost their first game tonight, by the way. They were the only undefeated team left. They lost tonight.
Oh, that's right. I remember reading that.
Yeah, they were the only undefeated team left, and the team that they lost to were the Minnesota Timberwolves, which was one of the teams that I put in the top 8. And Minnesota Timberwolves just took out the Denver Nuggets and gave Denver Nuggets their first loss as well. So they just beat two behemoths of a team, arguably the best team in the East and definitely the best team in the West. In back-to-back games, the Minnesota Timberwolves have done that. So kudos to them for coming out and doing that. The other thing on the East that I'll point out are the Sixers. I already brought up that the trade that they did in order to get rid of James Harden, and they got some of these other players. These other players are going to be contributing right away, and they just blew out a Washington Wizards team tonight. And Joel Embiid had like 47, 48 points. I mean, he went off. And all these other ancillary players that came from the Clippers, they helped out and contributed. So I think this team has gotten a lot better since the James Harden trade. And I would say that I had him ranked in the top 3. I still keep him at top 3 because of what happened. The Bucks, they're still adjusting. I mean, Damian Lillard, they won tonight. But Damian Lillard and Bucks are still kind of adjusting. They have a new coach too, Adrian Griffin. They lost Mike Budenholzer. We don't know, how much time it's going to take for them to click. But, they have the talent. Chris Middleton is on that team. He's an former All-Star, but Chris Middleton is, he's getting older, and he's actually currently on a minutes restriction. They lost Grayson Allen. We just don't know how well this team is going to coalesce. They're still working through it, but they have Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo, and definitely their production from a fantasy standpoint has definitely taken a hit because they're still trying to figure out how to work together. And the thing that I didn't see happening in the East, the Orlando Magic. The Orlando Magic have been winning, and they've been playing. They just beat the Lakers the other night pretty handily. So they're Paolo Banchero, who came from, I'm saying, I don't know why they say Banchero. I think it's Banchero. The way it's spelled is Banchero. That's Banchero, man. How do they say Banchero? I gotta ask a Brazilian guy about that if they actually pronounce it.
I can tell you why, because it's not Spanish, it's Portuguese, Eddie.
Yeah, do they pronounce it that way? I don't know.
I've been to Brazil a few times, and oh my God, it's beautiful. In fact, I went and saw the big Christ thing. That's a long trip up.
Oh yeah.
It's true about the women. Anyway, we won't go into that. But when I go there, if you speak Spanish, you can understand and talk back and forth, but it's a completely different language. There's a lot of words you don't understand, but you can understand enough of certain words. So I would imagine it's the CH is probably done differently in Portugal. It would be the only explanation for that.
I got to ask my coworker, who is my applications engineer at work. He's Brazilian, and I always forget to ask him, but this is something I'm going to ask him. So every time I see people call him Banchero, I'm like, Banchero, it's Banchero, man. But anyway, so the Orlando Magic have been playing very, very well for a team that I did not see do anything this year. They definitely have the talent, and the Duke Blue Devil, Paolo Banchero, I'll say that until otherwise, right? Then they have Franz Wagner, who is from Michigan. His brother also plays on the same team. And then Jalen Suggs, remember him from Gonzaga. And then also Cole Anthony, who is Greg Anthony's son. He plays on that team as well. And they're gelling pretty well. They're actually playing pretty well, and their defense is actually pretty well. So I did not see that happening from, and I still don't put them in my top 8, but just they're a team to look out for. So that's
it's just funny, Eddie. We haven't heard anything from the Orlando Magic since Shaq left.
Yeah, I know.
And my point is, it shows how much small market teams can struggle to bring in a franchise player to their organization if they don't get them in the draft.
Yeah, it's true. But anyway, so I don't have any time. I didn't have enough time to put together the FanDuel stuff. We can do that at a later segment later in the week, just to get through that. But I actually did really good in FanDuel last week. I actually won in consecutive days. I won like 50, 150, 40, and then $80 in consecutive days.
Wow.
So hold on, man. I've been on right now. So.
Well, we're going to figure it out, Eddie. That's for sure. We will figure it out. In fact, the reason I don't want it on this show is because it's one and done. So we have to figure out a way to maximize people hearing your voice.
Yep.
And maybe come just a 60-second or a 2-3 minute clip we post up. So we're gonna, to the audience, we're gonna talk about that. So Eddie's FanDuel picks will be coming your way soon. Eddie, any more in terms of trends, players, anything of that nature?
Nope. I said what I needed to say. I've already called out who I think are going to be the most valuable player. Who's the most improved player. You laughed in my face about, Who was
it, man? The most improved player. I can't remember who it was.
Ben Simmons, man. Ben.
Yeah, Ben.
Hey, Guillermo, I'm gonna put another. You already owe me a pupusa dinner, man. I'll probably get that sometime in the next 5-6 years when I go to San Diego. But I'm gonna bet you.
Actually, we'll get it when you come down with your daughter one time.
All right, man. All right. San Diego State. She might go there. You never know.
That's what I'm saying. If she comes down.
Yeah.
But yes. I made fun of Ben Simmons, and I still stick to my guns on that. Ben Simmons is my player.
Watch. Hey, get him. I know.
What's that? Is that a check? I cash that check.
No hoops. Remember that. I know hoops. Ben Simmons.
I believe you, Eddie, but I know Ben Simmons.
He will be the most improved player this year if he stays healthy. Mark my words.
I just think he lost the will to play. I think he got bitch slapped down the road. I read an article where a former player was saying that, hey, this kid's just soft. It's like, sure, he's injured, but he does, and kind of, I don't know, the Deshaun Watson of the NBA. I don't know.
Hey, the whole mental health issue is real. I mean, Kevin Love kind of put that in the forefront, a few years back.
No, I get that. But I call bull. I call bull on that because. But no, hold on. I call bull on him because if that was the case, no team would have signed him for that amount of money. So good and well, his agent was saying, "Hey, there's no issues here." He's because you're right. I do know about mental illness. I worked after the military at a couple of nonprofits, and what they did is they did assisted living for so they would teach individuals how to live. They call it assisted living with minimal help, but live on their own. So no, you're right. It's a serious issue, but I have by it. I don't know what's real and what's not real with Ben Simmons. Is my point. But
what's real? He's going to be the most improved player. You're going to owe me another pupusa dinner, man, when I see you.
All right. And with that, my friends, let me take care of some official business here. First of all, Eddie, as always, thank you. Thank you to the audience. Thank you for listening. We will be back next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Oh, my God, that's from the 1960s and 70s now. but don't forget, visit us at grumblingsmedia.com for articles and other podcasts, including Fired Up, which is my political podcast, The Big Questions with Big John, which is our interview show, and Free For All, which is our libertarian show that I love and hate because it drives me nuts at times, but it's a good, fun show. If you want to see these beautiful mugs of ours, YouTube and Rumble, our moniker there is Grumblings Media. And for the traditionalists, you can find us on Apple, Google, Spotify, and Pandora. Type in Points on the Board or Grumblings Media, and you should be able to track us down. Eddie, my friend, until next week and our next Points on the Board episode, I bid you adieu.
Adios, Guillermo. Peace out.
Hey everybody, this is Big John from Grumblings Media, and I just want to say thank you for watching our content. If you want to support our efforts here at Grumblings Media, just smash the subscribe button right here, totally free, or just go ahead and consume more of our great content. Click either one of these two boxes.